Thank you guys for joining me for part two for customer experience based on my resilience journey, an activity I actually did in the past at a company I used to work for, Old Mutual Finance, and there I did a course. It was called Branch Manager Academy. So this is just the continuation. Um, with regards to the other steps I completed on a chart, which is this one. This was done back in the exact date was 2016 06, so the 15th of June. And watch part one just to follow the other steps I mentioned. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover what I wrote, and then I'm going to let you know if it's still true about me today. Um, So in part one, I covered my meaning in life. I also covered my unique strengths. So today, I'm going to go through number three, which says my ability to maintain perspective. Okay, so let me see what I wrote down here. So I wrote down I am most vulnerable to negative thoughts when I'm surrounded by negative people. So, this, let me see, I'm going to read that again. I am most vulnerable to negative thoughts when I'm surrounded by negative people. So, yes, it's still true about me. Um, but now I try as much as possible to just be with my people, which is people that have, that think optimistically and that are positive, and I don't really entertain negativity. Um, so in the past, I used to sort of be in a situation where I'm like stuck because I was surrounded with certain, groups of friends, etc., cliques, and then I was like, okay, just deal with it because these are my friends, etc. That is just how they are. But at the end of the day, if you keep sitting in groups like that, then it really affects you, and that negative energy, it sort of rubs off on you. And today I'm like, hell no, I'm not gonna deal with that. I just don't want to. It's my choice not to deal with it, and I am happy to be by myself and just do what I need to do. Like, I am a creator now, so I have a lot of creative projects, and I love working on my e-commerce businesses, etc. Check it out when you Google Solo to Brands by Andrea, and then you can see all my e-commerce stores, all the merch, all my products, etc. Let me know what you think about it. But also, like I said, I've got things to do in terms of, um, you know, creating that progress in my life. So, which means I'm not going to sit in a space where I don't need to be. You know what I mean? So, I will chat a little bit with certain people, and then when the conversation gets negative, I'm out there. You know what I mean? I've got something else to do, and something that I enjoy, which is my passion, which is my creative work, etc. And I'm not gonna sit around like in a negative party at all. Then, secondly, it says here, I reframe my negative thinking and regain my balance by seeing the glass half full, checking how or what the benefit of the problem or situation is. So I wrote this a long time ago, but I think the correct wording there is because it's saying here, seeing the glass half full. Yes, that's correct. I'm still like that. And then checking how or what the benefit of the problem or situation is. So I just want to elaborate on that. Not really what the benefit of the problem is. I would say, how can you see an opportunity when it comes to a problem? That is more my thinking right now. So, if a problem arises, do you just like, um, are you in a situation where you feel like there's nothing else you can do? You don't know how you're gonna dig yourself out of that pit, etc. But the way I think now is there must be something that you can do to resolve the problem, or you can somehow find a way to turn that problem around and then sort of find an opportunity for you and another person, or whatever the problem is. If it's only you, if it's in a group, if it's you and another person, together you can brainstorm and then you can figure out a way as to how you can find an opportunity with regards to that problem. And by the way, many businesses create are successful because they create solutions to problems. Okay, so they're selling products and they're offering services because you are able to offer a solution to their problem. So that's now the business mindset of things. But in life in general, you can also just try and figure out what's the best way that you can progress from that problem so it doesn't leave a bad memory, etc. You can always have that experience basically by next time someone else experiences the same kind of problem, you are then able to either mentor or offer them advice, saying to them, listen, I had a similar problem, this is how I worked through the issue, I saw an opportunity, and guess what, this actually happened in a positive way, instead of thinking back and saying like, oh gosh, I had this problem, I'm never going to go through that experience again. Instead, look for the opportunity when a problem arises. And then the first point I would like to elaborate on, it's saying seeing the glass half full. Yes, this is still true about me. I always have an optimistic mindset, so no matter what issues I face or how people try and bring up problems or whatever the case may be, I always have an optimistic view. I always try to remain positive so that I can have that peace of mind, so that I can move on to the next task without the previous task like weighing heavy on you, and it's just like on your mind all the time, etc. So this is why, like in my other videos, I also mention how important meditation is. So back in the day, the way I used to meditate was like I would go through the day. I was quite a workaholic, so I would go through the day, and then at nighttime I would do meditation where I would just before I sleep I would think about everything that happened during the day and how whatever conversations I had or interactions I had, how I answered during conversation, what responses I got, what the outcome was, whatever made me feel bad or whatever was positive, how did that happen? So the entire process you think about, because remember most of the time you're going to experience the same type of thing in future. It only builds your character with regards to experience when you go through different challenges, and that is how you learn. But if you don't like meditating, it can be difficult, because if you don't resolve an issue, maybe let's make this example. You didn't resolve an issue, you ended up unhappy, you ended up disappointed. um Now, after leaving that interaction or situation, you think to yourself, why do I feel so bad? Or couldn't is it wasn't there a different way I could have handled the situation? That is how important meditation is. So if you now start to meditate on that exact questions that you have, then you start thinking of different avenues and different routes as to how you could have handled that situation better, so that you could come out feeling optimistic, positive, living with good energy. Actually, if you converted that problem, that negative situation, into a positive one, you have something that you can be proud of, saying that this is how I overcame an obstacle, this is how I overcame a challenge. You know what I'm trying to say? So, whether or not you left the situation or the interaction, um, and maybe it didn't work out, try meditating about it, and try and ask yourself, next time if that happens, if that same situation happens, how would you handle that? Think of one or two or three ways how you can best handle that situation. Okay, and then number 4, it says here, my fear is based on the assumption that, then it says, mention some things, what and why. So I'm going to read that again. My fear is based on the assumption that, the I wrote here, doubt, self critic. So in part 1, I mentioned that back in the day I had that perfectionist mindset. So I was my biggest critic, and I always said that to myself because I just knew it. So no matter how someone would try and criticize me, I would already serve the harshest blow to myself. You know what I mean? Because I would prepare myself well for a situation, think of all avenues, think of all scenarios with regards to what I was about to face, and then handle it. And then just before, say for example, it's a presentation. Let's make an example. If it's a presentation with that mindset I had in the past, that perfectionist mindset, then I would prepare, like over prepare. So now I'm thinking of every scenario, everything that could go wrong, everything that could go right, everything that people would possibly say, every problem people might find, and I would go in there full of anxiety. Or actually, by the time it happens, or just before it happens, I would be confident, because knowing that I've done my research, I've prepared myself well, etc. But the process of actually getting there brought me so much anxiety and stress that it's just not a healthy vibe, if you know what I'm saying. So then, once I um say for example I enter the room, and now I'm confident, you know what I mean, then I'm in a space where I don't even want to interact with anyone, because I don't want anyone to ruin my thought process. I don't want anyone to make me forget of everything I prepared. I don't want anything to happen just before the presentation. And say for example, other people are presenting, or you attend some roadshow or some big event and you eventually about to present, same example. And now time goes by and all the events are happening, people are talking to you, there's other presentations happening, all of those things, and all you can think about, you can barely even hear what what the other presentations are about. You refuse to listen to it, you are just focusing and running through all the scenarios and all your practice points that you have prepared in your head. So now the doubt and anxiety kicks in. Now you like thinking, you as you running through that scenarios, questions and answers again, you are like getting anxiety because now people are interacting with you, things are happening around you that you didn't prepare for. You are Now you start doubting yourself. Now you start thinking things like, what if I forget? What if I forget what I said when I'm in front? What if this happens? What if that happens? You come up with a whole bunch of things that you're not even sure is gonna happen. You know what I mean? That brings anxiety, fear, and you are highly irritated, and actually you become like a miserable person, like to people around you. Okay, you become grumpy. You It's just not cool. You know what I'm saying? So um I that is one of the reasons I'm glad that now I have an authentic approach where I like to be present, and I like to sort of, I do prepare, but I prepare just enough for the situation. But I'm most prepared for to listen and react. So whatever is going to happen in that situation, I'm willing to listen, observe, and then go with the flow. And for me, that has helped me with all that anxiety I used to feel in the past. That is now a thing of the past. You know what I mean? Sure, I do get anxious and things like that, but not like I used to. With that perfection mindset, it was like horrible anxiety and horrible stress, and it's just like, no. So doubt was a very very big issue for me, and getting things right and perfect at the time really caused a lot of stress for me. So at the moment I would say no. Doubt, not so much, not so much. But self critic, sure. Sure, when I do meditate, I will always be honest with myself. I will always, if I maybe answered someone in a disrespectful way, if I maybe handled the situation wrong because of whatever reason, and I feel like someone deserves an apology, I will certainly do that. If I feel that I was at fault, then I will surely make sure that I will rectify the situation. Um, I do. I am that self critic, but in a healthy way, in a more healthy way now that I have the authentic mindset. Then the next one says, three things I am grateful for, what and why. So I wrote here family and friends. So in part one, I go on to mention my situation when it comes to family and friends, that I now, um, it's just one for me. It's not really. So if I get close to nowadays, it is just like that person. If I really click with that person, really connect with that person, it then becomes like family to me. And yeah, I will do the most for that person, and I expect them to mirror that effort. You understand? And you should go watch part one for to understand my thinking around family and friends. So yes, it is still true. It's very very important in my life. But I will say I don't mind being by myself. I do not mind. I love to be out in the fresh air. I love to take a walk. I I love to work on my businesses. I have lots to do when I'm by myself, and the relationships that I really, really value, I will make the time for those people. Certainly, I will make the time, and when I do make the time, I will make sure that I'm present for that person and that I really get to know the person and that I'm really able to listen and respond the way that they deserve. Okay, if they don't deserve it, they most probably will not be part of my clique. Watch part one, I explain it all. Then again, the question is three things I'm grateful for, what and why. So the one was family and friends. The second one says job and able to put food on the table and a roof over my head. So I'm telling you, if someone had to find this page or somehow read what I wrote, and it was some sort of an enemy or whatever the case may be, they would certainly have the good stuff to destroy my life. They would probably use these things against me, I have no doubt. But a job very important to me. I do have a business mindset. I'm always thinking of new ideas. I created a couple of brands simultaneously because of my thinking, because I would have an idea and then I would have another idea, but then it wouldn't fit that brand, and then I would have another idea but it didn't fit that brand. So I created, I think, three brands simultaneously, and they're all growing that way. You know what I mean? So I didn't just focus on the one brand, I created like different brands simultaneously, and I keep building on those brands. So that I is important to me. And besides that, I do have some other skills. Like I worked in corporate for a very long time. I have about 12 years in sales, customer service. I've got financial industry experience. I've got retail industry experience. I've got other skills that can get me a job while I'm building my businesses. Um, so it is important for me to earn my own salary, to buy my own things, to, you know, sort out my own things. In terms of buying my own things, it is extremely important to me to have a job and to do well at that job as well. So it is still true. Third point here, um the question is three things I am grateful for. Opportunity to grow. So I am a very curious person. This is has always been true about me. I like to learn things, and I like to, if I'm in a job, I want to do the best that I can possibly do at that job. If there's anything outside the boundaries of the job scope that will increase income for my employer, and I'm able to do that or able to suggest it to my employer, I will certainly do so to grow the business and to grow my role within that business. If it is, um so I will always, once I've sort of mastered that certain role, then I would try and move on, try and get promoted to the next role and the next role, but I will always focus on doing the best that I can do at that job. And not just the best, I will try and do better and exceed expectations in terms of the business itself, being successful. You know what I mean? So I will offer ideas, I will offer suggestions, initiatives, whatever it is, to keep the business running and to keep the doors open. That is just how I am. Um, Opportunity to grow. Yeah, I am curious. Besides that, I am always researching things from a personal perspective. Like, I look at gardening, I look at videos on YouTube as to how to plant things. I like to see DIY videos. I like to see how I can grow maybe automate my businesses. I like to learn things. So, opportunity to grow is extremely important to me. Um, I think we have time for one more. It says here, in tough times, I can count on support from family and friends is the first point. So, yes, it is still true. However, you must go watch part one to understand my thinking on family and friends. And it has changed right now. So, not all family and friends, the relationships is not the way it used to be in the past. Um, so, at the moment, not all family and friends I can count on. But um, some genuine relationships that I have built, I have no doubt. I've got people that's extremely protective of me, that's extremely supportive of me, and I'm not talking about financial support, I'm talking about emotional support, I'm talking about they show up, they are present, they listen properly, they take note of my interest, they take note of um, the things that are important to me, and I do the same for them. And so it's a yes and a no. And then it also says in tough times I can count on support from partner. So at the time, yes, it was true. The partner I had at the time, apparently, as it says here, I could count on him. But things changed over the years. Our relationship, it didn't work out, and that's okay. And so, yeah, at the time it was a yes, but like now it is a no. Because if that was back in 2016 and we broke up in 2022, in the year 2022, things changed. So I would have to make a whole other video with regards to that. So at the moment, I will still go with I can count on support from family. Should I do one more? I can be realistically optimistic by considering all aspects of a situation, seeing the positive benefits. I think the wording is wrong there. Seeing the positive, like seeing an opportunity in the situation, and considering the realistic effects it may have. Considering all aspects of a situation. You see, considering all aspects of a situation, that was the vibe I was in back in the day. If I'm telling you that I over prepared, believe me, I would write about it. Every possible scenario I would think about, um, from the day I would hear about the event, the meeting, or the interaction till the moment I get there till the moment I have to actually be in that interaction, presentation, or whatever the case may be. The anxiety was so high back then because of it. So I do consider a lot of aspects and a lot of scenarios just to be prepared, but not like that. Um, in a more healthy way now. Seeing the positive, seeing the opportunity in every situation. Yes, that is true about me. And considering the realistic effects it may have. Yes, being realistic is a must. So obviously you can't live in a fantasy land. You can't think like you can do whatever you can without consequences. So you must understand the long-term effects your actions will take. You must understand the impact of your actions. You must understand that there are consequences to bad actions. You must be willing and humble enough to apologize when you have to, when you have made a mistake. You mustn't be too prideful to ask for help if you need help. And that's just my thinking at the moment. Like, I think it's more mature, a mature way of thinking, considering the same detail, but I have just evolved more in each of these things. So it is the same, but I think with more experience and as the years went by, I just learned new strategies, new ways of handling things, and I make sure that I have that healthy mindset and I approach things in a healthy way, and that it's not only me in the situation, but there's other people as well that so my actions will impact others as well, and I think about that and I consider that as well, and I factor that in whatever action it is that I will have to take. Here's the last point, and I think I'm just going to wrap it up now. It says, I remain open minded and flexible by number one, I would like to change. It says you're worrying, stressing about future events that are that are not in my control. I'll read that again. I would like to change worrying and stressing about future events that are not in my control. So I think I've learned a lot since this 2016. So sure, I would. It's just extremely hot right now in here. Um, Back then, like I explained to you, the mindset I had, I was extremely stressed out and worried about nonsense that didn't even happen. You know what I mean? So now, um, I'm more relaxed, I have a more authentic approach, I remain present. If it isn't in my control, then I'm just going to chill about it. You know what I mean? I will just handle the things that are in my control. And always, of course, consider how your actions will impact not only you but others. If you need help, then you need to ask for help. Number two, it is difficult to change because I like being prepared. Same thing I just mentioned all the time now. I over prepared. I like being prepared. If I wasn't prepared, then I get stuck. I can't speak. I just like I'm not able to continue with that conversation. It just ruins the entire interaction because it wasn't the way I prepared. For example, someone throws a spanner in the works and then you don't know what to do because you are so prepared. Like, almost like you've seen it once in your mind before, and now when you arrive there, things don't go according to your plan, and then you are just like stuck and you don't know how to proceed. It is a really, if you're a perfectionist, please do comment in the comment box and let me know how it impacts you professionally and in your personal life. Let me know, because if I think back to that time, um I prefer like being authentic now, compared to that way of thinking. And then number three, it says, I fear if I don't do it, the following will happen. I wrote here, I will be caught unprepared and cause delay. So, if you don't know what is going to happen, then it can be a little bit challenging. You will have to handle the situation on the spot. But if you are experienced, you are sort of able to work through those challenges. But if it is someone, for example, um, that is out to get you, and they will, if they knew this point about me, I will be caught unprepared and cause delay. In order to get a reaction out of me, I think they would try and do something and make sure I'm unprepared for it so that they can get a reaction. God knows if they want to sell tickets for my reaction, I don't know. But yeah, like I said, if someone had to read this and got a hold of this information, then most likely, if it landed up in the wrong hands or the wrong eyes saw it, then they could have definitely, um, tripped me up in terms of whatever situations. But that's life. It's not a movie. This is a reality, and things happen. And I think most good people don't do things maliciously with malicious intent to hurt other people or to make them. I think a mature mindset, someone with a mature mindset, will not cause someone deliberately to be impacted negatively, to bring tears to their eyes, to bring physical harm to them, to put them in a situation where um, something bad will happen to that person because they are unprepared. So I think you can just chill about it and just relax and just listen properly, observe properly, and just handle the situation the best that you can. If it ends up leading to tears, if you end up falling, or um, something happens that you were unprepared for, then you know what, you just get up and you just continue and you just proceed from there. Okay, like I said, it isn't a movie. You're not selling tickets over here for people's entertainment, for any disaster to happen to you. So just proceed to do what you can, to the best of your ability, and as long as you've got good intentions, you shouldn't be worried. The other person must be more worried about self reflection. And, in actual fact, I wrote a book. It's called You Poor Looking Thing. So you should go buy that book and do some good if you are out there trying to cause disaster for other people. It's about manners and morals, and there's also some biblical verses if you need some prayer. If you're out there being a baddie, trying to ruin other people's lives, you need to buy that book. Okay, then number four. My fear is based on the following assumption: that everything can be done in proper timing. My fear is based on the following assumption that everything can be done in proper timing. So I would say today it is still, I wouldn't call it a fear, but it is a little bit annoying for me today because if I'm busy working, for example, and then someone just randomly says, come, let's have a meeting, and I enter the meeting unprepared, and I'm not able to produce or provide the information that I would like to provide to my boss or to any senior or anyone that requires the information. It does upset me a little bit that they did not prepare me, because they are shooting themselves in the foot and they are compromising my ability to provide them with the detail that they require, and that is not business smart.